I've recorded every single Mythic Plus key that I've attempted in Season 1 of The War Within, and in this series I'm going to cover the highs and lows of each dungeon on my way to pushing to the 0.1% title. In the last episode we managed to blast through 3.1k, getting ourselves up to 3,117 rating, and today we're going to start with a 13 siege. Now we'd already timed this key, but somehow we did manage to get one score out of it, so I just needed to include this inside the episode, but nothing of importance happened in that key. So we're just going to move straight on to a 15 Arik Kara. Now, this was an off-stream key, and again, it's still one of our first ever 15s that we're pushing this season. One of the easier dungeons to complete on a 15, though. And this is still very early into Artie's enhancement career, so I don't know if I'm just eliminating all of the smallies before he can actually get the damage out on the first pull, but we did struggle a bit with damage on this first pull. Took longer than we were expecting it to. I mean, it is a big pull and we don't have Lust, so it's not going to be insanely quick. But yeah, he's now at the point where he stomps me on damage on every single bloody pull. And then to be fair, we just had a few random deaths on the way to the first boss. I think a few people got taken out by the Venomous Spit, so it was already feeling relatively scuffed. Definitely still timeable though. Arik Kara is a pretty forgiving dungeon, and then we get to the first boss and Relly just falls over. I'm not entirely sure what happened here. I think maybe he stood in the Gossamer Onslaught swirly, because he pretty much just gets 100 to 0'd. But of course, that is the key dunzo. So now let's skip over to another 15. Then we got a 15 Dawnbreaker. Again, one of the easier 15s to time. So on the first pull, we send all of our cooldowns, and then on the second pull or the first pull on the ship, we want to send our Bloodlust. Now, we're not going to have our cooldowns back in time for it, but it is just a much more efficient use of Bloodlust. Otherwise, you're just going to completely overkill the first pack. And this pack can get a little bit spooky. And then as the whole pack's kind of getting low, I do end up sending my Icy Veins. I'm just not used to playing with a spec that actually does big damage on every single pull here. I've been used to a Shadow Priest the whole season. So definitely a slight waste of my Icy Veins here. There's always that kind of line that you've got to ride on Frost, where it's like, you don't want to sit on your cooldowns for too long because you've got shifting power, so you get it back so quickly. But at the same time, I do think here was not the right place to be sending my cooldowns. Going down into the city of Mereldar then, we do a big pull. We're literally just copying Yoda's route here. So we do a big pull with, I think, 2 or 3 shadows in here. You want to be focusing these shadows in this pack because they're on a timer before they do their Dark Flows AoE. So you want to try and kill them off as quickly as you can, because that AoE in higher keys is going to absolutely nuke your group. But we were kind of pumping on this pull. Then straight after that pull, we go into the first mini boss, and we're meant to pull 2 extra mobs into this, but we end up pulling basically the whole entire zone. And it was actually fine. Like, we definitely don't want to be trying to replicate this again, because there is a lot of damage. Like, if we get bad overlaps with the Abyssal Blast dot that the mini boss puts on somebody, then there's not much you can do about it. But with good stops and defensive usage, we did manage to execute this pull. And then after taking out the second boss, you then move on to the scariest boss of the dungeon. And no, it is not the last boss, it's actually the mini boss. This Dark Architect and its Tormenting Rays. Holy moly, they absolutely truck. You basically just have to play your defensives really well on this fight. And that is exactly what we did. I mean, as a mage, I'm not actually that scared because I just have so much defensive capability. But I imagine for other squishier specs, like for example, Artie on the Enhancement Shaman, this is definitely not going to be a fun time. And then we take out the Architect with around 8 minutes left on the timer, so we have plenty of time for the last boss. But because of where we had been tanking it, my Frozen Orb was actually still out, and then it ends up just ninja pulling the last boss. So we need to wipe because Ryan or Bringus needs the mana for it. And we do lose a lot of time because of the bloody death penalty affix. Blizzard, please get rid of it. No one likes it. Deaths are punishing enough as it is. Then we start the last boss with around 6 minutes left, which I thought was plenty of time. But this boss is a marathon. And we do just about manage to take it out in time with 8 seconds left on the timer, which is nuts. Like, this boss is just so long. I think in future keys, I'm just going to commit to Arcane in here. I mean, maybe even Fire with the buffs on this reset. But I think the priority damage in this key is just so important. But regardless, we time it and we get 10 score out of it, taking us up to 3,128. Then we'll go back to what feels like some lower keys now that we're timing 15s, but our Grim Batol was still low. In this second area, I think I was just a bit keen on my damage here. Like, I have my mirror images. I should have just placed them as we went into the pool. I did have my Alter Time for the Molten Wake, which is enough by itself, but a cast did go on me at just about the same time, so I ended up getting taken out by that. Who knows, maybe I wouldn't have died if I had my mirror images out. But I mean, if I was quick enough with the reactions anyway, I did have like half a second to press my ice block or greater invis, and that definitely would have saved me. But apart from that, nothing else was really that eventful. And we do manage to take out the last boss with just under 2 minutes left, and we get another 13 score out of this, taking us up to 3,141. I think around this time we were in the title range for where we were at in the season, so we were super happy with where we were at. Then moving on to a 13 siege that we had already timed, and I'm not really sure why, but in the third boss area we ended up playing this sniper pack. I think maybe our percent was just scuffed. I'm not really sure why. Maybe we had the bug of the count down the stairs because of the world quest, apparently that is. But with these snipers, what you can do is get your tank to stand on one side, and then all of your other party members just stand on like the behind them, because apparently the shoots are only a frontal. So as long as you're all stood behind them, they will only shoot the tank. But what I failed to realize is they still will ricochet any random players. So I get double ricocheted. I should have just been more on it with my stops here. That's all that comes down to. And then on the last boss, we did a little bit, and by we, I mean Seb did a little bit of trolling. He had the debuff, I was following him because I had just done the cannon, and he missed the jump onto this box and then just like stayed in the water below. So I jumped into him as he got dispelled, and then it absolutely pinged me to Africa. But we do time this key with around 5 minutes left, so we have plenty of time on this timer. Like, we could definitely be playing this on a 15, and this was with a pug tank as well. Moving on to a 14 miss, again another key that we have already timed, but we do manage to squeeze some score out of it by just timing it faster. So on this first pull, what you can do is, if I get the overgrowth, I'm going to invis it, and you can do the same with feign death and vanish. But with Shammies in the group, if they talent into Windrush Totem and then pick the Jetstream talent underneath, for whatever reason, it cancels the overgrowth and you don't actually get stunned by it. So we had about a 5-minute conversation before about how we were going to do it, and then it turns out that the Bringers didn't even have it talented. But yeah, you basically just place the Windrush Totem on the floor as the overgrowth channel is going out, and the player won't get stunned by it. And then, after forgetting Windrush, Seb forgot to take Sleepwalk, so he couldn't skip the next pack. So we ended up having to play this Bowlbreaker pack, which I don't think I've ever had to play, except for maybe in some like random +4s. So basically, my whole group was trolling me in this run, guys. So if anyone's looking for an insane Arcane and Frost Mage, then hit your boy up. But even with all of that scuffage, me and Artie did kind of pump in this key. Like, I'm doing a 2.5 mil overall, he's doing a 2.8. I mean, I can't really compete with the enhanced, can I? But Arcane just feels so good in Mist, man. And it's also just so fun. Like, compared to Frost, I appreciate Frost because it's easy. So in the higher keys, I can focus more on what's going on around me. But Arcane to play is just infinitely more fun than Frost. And we do time this key with around 5.5 minutes left, and get 2 score out of it, taking us up to 3,145. Another 14 then. Finally, we're into the bigger keys consistently. So Artie absolutely deleted the first pull. That's what I'm saying. The man just needed a few keys to get primed on enhance, and now he's coming for the throne. Like the fact that I'm doing 8 mil DPS and it looks bad because of he's doing 15, 16 million DPS. Just a joke, isn't it? Then we pull this Harvester pack into the first boss. Quite scary, but very efficient, so that's what we need to be doing in these higher keys to time them. And the first Heaving Wretch does go off. I mean, I'm in a precarious position here. I don't know if that's the right word, but we're going to roll with it. But I also feel like I was assassinated by my healer here with a gust of wind at the last second. I was expecting the Heaving Wretch to go like directly behind Blightbone. I should have moved left for sure. And then to be fair, this fight is like the only fight where I actually feel squishy as a mage, because the only way that I can stop the Heaving Wretch from one-shotting me is using Ice Block. And I actually ended up having to use it early here. I got hit by a few things. I maybe even got a bite from a worm. So I have no blocks for the rest of this fight. I can't invis the Heaving Wretch because it will go on somebody else. It will redirect it, and then that gets all panicky, and it's probably going to cause a wipe at some point. Mirror Image, which is a 20% damage reduction, doesn't even save me. So the only thing that I can do is Ice Block. But because we are in comms, I was able to easily talk to my group and just get Seb to rescue me on one. And we've also got sacks from Relentless, so I'm more than safe. It's just, if I wasn't in comms, then I probably would be toast here. Then up the stairs, we move on to the Narzuda pack, the little mini boss, and Relentless actually ends up falling over here. I mean, this is a scary pack for a tank. You've got so many necrotic bolts going out. It's nice for prop pallers because you get like those infinite amount of extra interrupts. I think he actually stood in an orb here, but the rest of the pack was low enough that we were able to just kite it out. We had a Greater Earth Ellie from the Small Sham himself, And then my mirror images come in handy to basically pseudo taunt the mini boss as well. We do kite it out and style it out, but we do lose a lot of time for this, obviously. Then I have everything for this lust pack here. Again, I'm not too sure that this is worth lusting. There's just so many smallies and the other mobs aren't too scary. I think we should probably chain these like marauder packs into the next marauder pack and lust that up. Maybe, I don't know if the tank can survive that, but I've seen something like that from the higher keys. Because this lust just doesn't really feel worth it. Like, it's just going to die 10 seconds slower if we don't lust it, but no one's going to die because it's not really a scary pack. But I do end up pumping here. I got a ton of Frozen Orb resets. Unfortunately, it was kind of after everything had died. Then a little trolling from Vesp here. I picked up the spear just before Amarth, and then I think I just got a bit too ahead of myself and completely forgot to spear Amarth, even though that's my one job in this dungeon. But it was absolutely fine. And to be fair, it kind of... I don't know, like, it's one of those where if you kill the boss, it feels fine because then you have the spear for later anyway. So I ended up saving my spear until the last boss. Maybe I could have sent it on Stitch Flesh because we didn't actually manage to one phase him here. I'm not sure how much of a difference that would have made. We got him to around 22% before he escaped back up to the top of the stage. And then moving over to the last boss, it is a night and day difference between playing Frost and Arcane on this last boss. Like, the ads when I get sent downstairs are just not scary in the slightest. And I guess because of that, this last boss just felt really easy. And we do manage to time this key, even with the scuffage, with like 2 minutes left. So we do get 12 score out of this, taking us up to 3,157. On to a 14 siege. Again, we do the skip at the start. Now, I hate this first boss, man. It's so finicky with the timings. Like, you can literally wipe your key from like a millisecond here. I've done it quite a few times at this point because I'll just get gripped through the bomb at the last second because his toes are literally inside the bomb and it doesn't blow him up. But this fight specifically was super efficient because we actually managed to double bomb the boss twice, which just massively increases his damage taken. And also, I don't know how much damage the bombs actually do themselves, because obviously if he hits the first bomb and then hits the second bomb, he's taking increased damage from the second bomb, but I don't know how hard they actually hit him. And then skipping over to the final area, we're meant to skip this spotter pack here, but the whole team had pressed their DPS potion, so they didn't have their invis potion. But again, we just do the sniper tech where we stand behind them. It did get a little sketch at some point because Artie got the sighted artillery and I think he just moved too far to the side. So he was technically classed as in front of them and they all swapped to him, which was terrifying. And then moving on to Hadao, we do end up lusting this, which I think is the more efficient lust just because he has so much health. But I think personally, I'd rather just save lust for the last boss because I think it's infinitely scarier. Like, Hadao is just not a scary boss at all. It's just a long boss. I don't know exactly what they're doing in high keys. I don't know if I've ever watched a high siege key. But I guess as long as the last boss goes fine, then you're kind of chilling. And we do end up timing this 14 with around 3.5 minutes left. So, I mean, again, we're kind of pushing these timers. Like, they're not really close at all. And we get 13 score out of this, taking us up to 3,170. We're on a push here to 3.2. Then we move on to a 14 Grim Batol. Trying to get everything on a 14 here. And on the second boss, Reddy does actually end up dying to Throngus. He tried to line of sight the Molten Flurry, but I don't think he got around the corner in time. And this has since then been patched, so don't try and line of sight this, guys. But it was perfect timing if he was to die, because he died as the Forge Mace cast went off, so we had time to CR him. And then he gets to recover by just running away from the boss. And then skipping over to the last area, we do this double Corruptor pull at the start. This area was not played well at all. I mean, I'm still not really sure how to play this because, like, as a Frost Mage, I get so much funnel and resets from my Frozen Orbs and Blizzards, but, like, I don't really want to kill the ad straight away. Or do I want to kill the ad straight away? Because they are, like, low-key scary for the tank, I think. But then, obviously, them dying also increases the corrupt damage. And, like, I'm just praying that it's on me in this final area because I have so many defensives to deal with it. I think we were also trying to line of sight the corrupts here, and apparently they just keep recasting, but I just don't think that's really worth it, so I don't think we're going to try that again. So we did have a few deaths in the last area, and although apart from that it was a pretty clean key, I mean 6 deaths is quite a lot, but the run did feel smooth and we almost overtimed it, but luckily we did time it with around 10 seconds left and got another 13 score, and that takes us up to 3,183. But this is what, like, I tweeted about this the other day, man. Like, I'm so sick of this death penalty. Like, it's just making me... I mean, I am enjoying keys this season, but it's testing me. Because deaths are, like, so punishing by themselves, man. And it's always going to get to a point where when you're doing push keys, you're going to need flawless runs to time the keys at a certain level, right? But I think even in these key levels, like if you have a few deaths, that is just the key over. Like especially if you have one wipe, the key is completely depleted. Like there is just no chance. And I don't think that should be the case. Like having to play perfectly as a 5-man team flawlessly for 30 minutes straight, I feel like that's just too much to ask, man. But maybe that's just a skill issue from me. Next up, we got a miss 15, and my group did actually take Sleepwalk and Jetstream Windrush this time. So that's always a good start. Now, I don't know what it is about Arcane on this first pool, man, but I just never seem to do damage. I mean, saying that, I actually kind of do damage on this first pool, but actually that's because I've realized I've just popped my potion on this, which is not what I want to do. I definitely want to save my potion for the first boss. But yeah, I really struggle with damage on Arcane on this first pool. And like, I know how to play my spec. So I'm not like inting my rotation or anything. I just don't seem to do any damage. I don't know if it's just one of those where I'm like comparing myself to an enhanced chamois. That could definitely be the case, but yeah, so it feels bad, man. And on the first boss, we do focus Ingra in the start of the fight because we were going for a 1 phase here. Oh, we do actually have my potion back for this phase. Okay, that's something I've just learned from watching my own video. I did not realize that it was 5 minutes in between those times, but here we are. But I mean, with this 1 phasing of the first boss, a lot of RNG does go into it. Like, I don't play my rotation any differently. Artie doesn't either. It just depends on whether we get the right procs and if he gets the right amount of wolves. But to be fair, this was kind of a poor performance. I mean, that's a harsh word, but I think we should both be pushing near on like 4 million DPS here, like coming out of that phase. And on a 15, if the boss is around 15%, we do need to swap back to the tree, unfortunately. So we do lose quite a bit of time from that. And we got pretty unlucky with the maze as well. So RNG just was not on our side at all for this key. Like we come out of the maze with 52% after Mistcaller. That's far from ideal. And then on the last boss, I think this actually, like not even kidding, might be the first time that I've been fixated by the maggots in a high key on this last boss. So I didn't realize how hard they hit. So I definitely should have pressed an ice block or even a greater invis. I'm not actually sure what the invis does, but I mean, that's what I'm saying is I've just never had this go on me before. They just absolutely wrecked me, man. But we do get me back up, finish off the last boss. Then we pull some extra percentage after that we needed. And my God, it was close. But we do end up just over timing it by around 10 seconds, which is super sad. I mean, there's many points in that key, though, that we could have sped up the key. I mean, we were kind of unlucky with the maze and the percent that we got from the maze. But yeah, it feels bad to lose the key by 10 seconds, man. Like, that's my death on the last boss, but we also had another 5 deaths during the key. So far from ideal. But let's finish with timing a key on this episode, shall we? So at this point, we'd actually started to use our professions, and we picked up tailoring on, I think, Seb. I don't know, I'm pretty sure Bringers has it as well. But basically, tailoring allows you to pick up this item that then you can stun any mob in the dungeon for, I don't know how long it is, maybe like 10 seconds. But if you do use a pressing roar from the evoker, then it does actually double the duration of it. So we stun the second mini boss on pull so that we potentially, hopefully, only get 1 Call of the Brood. Now you can perfectly time it to where you stun it just after the first tick of the Call of the Brood, and then that will put it on cooldown and you don't have to deal with the rest of the damage from the Call of the Brood. But I think if you're confident in your damage, you can just send it on pull and then you're only going to get 1 Call of the Brood anyway. But my cooldowns were all kinds of scuffed for this 15. Again, it's just getting used to those higher keys and the timings on them. So unfortunately, my cooldowns were just out of sync for the first boss with Lust and all of my potions, trinkets and all that good stuff. I don't know why I didn't shifting power earlier, because then I would have had it pretty much on pull, but I guess that's something to learn. And then towards the end of the boss, I think a call was made that we were going to ignore the ads. I can't remember exactly why my brain didn't register that. Maybe it was just a call to simply ignore the ads. So I blizzarded them so that they were infinitely more slow and we didn't need to deal with them. But I guess also ignoring the ads meant that we could route them. Not the end of the world, but just in future keys, I'll remember that ignoring the ads means that we're going to probably landslide them and route them so that we literally just ignore them and I won't blizzard them to break it. Jumping over to the second boss, I got caught out badly here. Like, I should have just had better positioning. I was kind of trying to ride around the edge of the circle at the same time as dodging the like swarms. I had no blink charges here, but I mean, to be fair, even if I did have blink, I don't know why, but I'm scared to blink in this circle. I think it's just because the circle is quite small and I don't want to end up out in the green stuff, but I mean, it is fine if you do it for like half a second. So I end up racking about 5 stacks up on myself here and just instantly died to it through block. I should have just not even wasted block here, but I would have looked like a bot if I had died with all of my cooldowns off of cooldown. So unfortunately for that, I did also lose my 40 stacks of Spy Masters. Big damage L right there. And then on the last boss then, we did actually miss some percent here because we had bad patrols throughout the dungeon, but I'm now playing this boss fight at the back of the arena because for whatever reason, the blood workers that run around, the little ads that drop the pools, they actually patrol onto where the blood overseers are, like straight down the middle. And my frost splinters will just randomly kill these blood workers and just target them like honing missiles. And then if it kills the blood workers where the blood overseers are, it will drop a puddle on them and then get the blood overseers in combat with us. So that will wipe the key. And it has happened twice now, I think. So I've learnt my lesson and I will always be staying over this side of the boss. But yeah, thank you, Blizzard, for that nice little bug there. And then sometimes if I don't have a shifting power or I don't press alter time early enough, I mean, to be honest, I think it's more of a case of just timings. I won't actually have my alter time back for the Cosmic Singularity. So here I ran over. To be fair, I was looking around and I just assumed that this puddle was so far out the way that nobody would be going for it. Because there was 5 puddles up in total. But it turns out Seb was also going for this one and I did steal his. I think maybe I could have just about got my alter time off if I literally pressed it and then instantly repressed it as it sucked me in. But I think the safer call for me there was just to try and find a puddle. And on a 15 with a good route, with a good patrol, we would have timed this key with probably around 3 minutes left, which is not bad for a 15 key. It is Arikara, but we do have to go up the stairs and kill these other overseers and drones. And we do time this key with 2 minutes-ish left, and we get 11 score out of this, taking us up to 3,194. Oh, so close to 3.2, but that is where we're going to leave it for this episode. Like I said, since we kind of got to the title range, we've been hovering around the title range, and to be honest, we're not even playing that much at the moment anyway, so I'm pretty confident that we will get it this season, which will be my first ever title, which will be pretty cool. I just wish they had mounts as rewards instead of a title that nobody really ever looks at or cares about. But it is what it is. So if you enjoyed this video, then please feel free to drop a like down below, subscribe to your boy if you haven't already, and until next time, I'll catch you guys later.